Good morning and Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for welcoming my wife Sandy and me here to Houston to celebrate with the Vietnamese community. As I said out on the stage, the Vietnamese community contributes so much to our culture, to our economy, prosperity, and our freedom. And unlike many Americans, you understand what the alternative is. Many, particularly of a certain age, immigrated as refugees to the United States. Thank goodness you continue to become Americans in all senses, while not forgetting where you came from, but sharing our values, particularly religious freedom and liberty and economic liberty as well. I mentioned out on the stage, when you flee socialism, you know that does not work. And when you come here, you realize that the sky is the limit. And that is why I appreciate so much the opportunity to be with the Vietnamese community here in Houston. I think there's roughly 300,000 Vietnamese Americans in Texas. And of course, I think most people in around the country, they don't appreciate how much different people contribute to our state and our economy, how diverse we really are. But I've always enjoyed my relationship with the Vietnamese community here. And as I was saying on the stage and afterwards, I really do think that I would not be where I am today in the United States Senate if it weren't for the Vietnamese community back in 1998 when I ran for Attorney General. Because if I'd never been elected Attorney General, which I was because of the vote and the support from the Vietnamese community, I never would have had the chance to run for the United States Senate. So thank you for your support, and I am delighted always to work with all of you and on any of the issues that you care most about. So I guess we're going to have a chance to answer a few questions if you have some. Yes, ma'am. Well, obviously, communism is a failed ideology, and so many people have been oppressed and even killed in order for that ideology to actually be practiced. So I think we need to teach our children what I think that our young people don't necessarily always appreciate what they enjoy here in this country, and I think many Americans kind of take it for granted. But those of you who immigrated from Vietnam at the end of the fall of Saigon, you know what the alternative is and how terrible it is in terms of denial of basic freedoms, obviously working in a socialist government or in a socialist system, and how that has failed. So I think it's good to remind even our young people who take what they have now here for granted about what these other failed systems were, and to remember history, because as the saying goes, those who fail to remember history are condemned to repeat it. And we see now, even in New York City, we see an avowed socialist and maybe even a communist elected mayor, and we also see some different groups moving into the state of Texas, not so they can be part of Texas and share our values, but to come preach their ideology, which is incompatible with the ideology or the values of Texans and Americans.
So will you support that? And then you're going to try to make it into a mandate to our public school here in Texas?
Well, I will work, if I can get some follow-up with you and maybe work with you on that. If you'll let me, if you'll let Haley and David James back here on my staff, we'll be glad to follow up with you.
Perfect, great. Do we have any questions from
Any
the
other
media here?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kathleen Tan. I want to thank you very much for your time and for being here first. You've been a steadfast supporter of human rights in Vietnam, and you've been there on Vietnam Human Rights Day on the Hill. More recently, we really appreciate your submission of the
got the answers right, too, right?
Yes, advocating for the release of prisoners of conscience and, most importantly, raising awareness right now of our concerns for become censorship of recent American-owned platforms such as Meta. So, Senator, many Vietnamese American activists in Texas have experienced geo-blocking, page removal or account suspensions on Meta platforms. In many cases, the reasons given are vague, creating standard violations or copyright claims without detailed explanations and meaningful review. So, do you believe U.S. tech companies should comply with foreign government censorship requests when speech is legal under U.S. law?
Absolutely not. I'm not for letting any governments, and particularly a non-democratically elected government, dictate to Americans what they can do or can't do online. We believe in freedom of speech, even when we don't agree with it. That produces discussions and debates, and I think we should not be afraid of those. But the foreign governments, particularly authoritarian governments, communist governments, they don't want free speech. They want everybody to think exactly the same, and they want to filter all the information people get, so they never occurs to them there's another side to the story or another idea. So we'd be happy to look into that some more. I know we struggle to deal with social media because it is international, and it doesn't necessarily come from the United States. It can come from offshore or overseas, but it still can limit the information that American citizens are getting, and that should not be tolerated.
Reportedly been targeting Vietnamese American human rights activists for harassment and potential persecution. Would you support congressional oversight into whether the Vietnamese government is conducting transnational repression against Americans of Vietnamese descent?
Absolutely. You know, we're seeing a lot of manufacturing, for example, leave China and come to Vietnam. Vietnam's become a much more important country in terms of international trade. We have a lot of leverage, I think, to work with the Vietnamese government to address these concerns. And you have my commitment that we will certainly do that. I know Secretary Rubio very well, and I know he's committed to these same things. Yes, sir.
So now I want to ask you a question. My name is Victor on TV. You know, we are another state. We're very concerned about in the Texas about the many people from the blue state they move to the red state,
Yeah.
and then some people they come for for the volunteer. Some people pay by the money. We very concerned about Texas. Will we change someday in the future to the blue state? And many company embassy in here they try to make them hurt the Vietnamese community.
Yeah.
How will we stop the company and keep make this state very important? Texas Lonely Star be forever the red state, sir.
I love that question. So, we have a lot because we are a state that creates opportunity and freedom for people. People want to come here and they vote with their feet, and that's the reasons why so many Vietnamese Americans have come to Texas because of that. But we don't want them importing their bad habits and their bad policies from blue states here. But the best way to make sure that doesn't happen is for Vietnamese Americans to vote. And we've got the primary coming up here on March the 3rd is the first opportunity. Actually, we got early voting. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but I hope you will vote. And early voting is open, I think, today and all of next week, and then on March the 3rd. Because people who don't vote, their voice is never heard. And unfortunately, in many of these elections, we have a very small turnout. I know when Sylvester Turner's seat was being a special election, there were 5.6% of registered voters voted in that special election. Well, think of all the people whose voices were not represented in that election, but unfortunately that's because they didn't participate. So I know that the Vietnamese community can contribute to maintaining those values that you fought for and that you sought by coming here, by making sure that your voice is heard and voting. So I would encourage all of your viewers, all of your listeners to do just that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, since our
Yeah, I think the pandemic, the COVID-19 was devastating in so many accounts. You know, restaurants, obviously when we all had to wear masks and stay inside and couldn't patronize these small businesses, and then many of them failed. And so we are in the process of coming back. But yes, there continues to be efforts for training workforce. We know technology is changing everything with artificial intelligence and the growth of data centers. We need more people who build things with their hands in order to do the jobs that are coming back to America from China, for example. And that's very important. But I know that Vietnamese Americans I know are usually some of the best educated, hardest working, greatest contributors to our communities in our state. And so anything we can do to help with that, we stand ready to do that. And the gentleman right behind you there, Jay Guerrero, who everybody knows, Jay represents me, and Sarah over there in the green dress represent me in the Houston area. And David James over here is my state director, so please follow up with them if there's anything we can do specifically to help. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Phóng, represent Vietnam Human Rights Day, May 11th. So from Washington D.C. and nationally, I would like to talk about the event recently from D.C. President Trump came to U.S. to present, come up to the ball of the peace of President Trump. So as a senator, so what criteria do you think U.S. government should do to make sure the Vietnamese peace committee work independently from their government and their united front, and to improve human rights in Vietnam right now?
Well, there's no better source of information than the Vietnamese community, American community here, because you know what things are like. I mean, there's propaganda or repression of the truth, and I know that all of you have family members and relationships back in Vietnam, and you can help us make sure the truth comes out, because we do have the leverage, I think, to hold the Vietnamese government accountable for these things, because they want to continue to increase trade with the United States. As I said, now that China, many of these manufacturing facilities are moved from China to Vietnam and other countries in the region. That gives us enormous leverage to try to make sure that they do the right thing when it comes to human rights and religious freedom. So please continue to work with us and supply me with the information that I need so I can represent you in the